Today's church leader tool is one that I think you are going to find a huge blessing. It's one of those key skills that you really need in order to build your team, work together, and be a great leader. And that skill is delegation. There are just few skills that are as important as delegation. And because this topic is so important, I'm going to break it up into two parts. The first of those will be on the why and the who of delegation, and then the second part will be on the what and the how. But before we dive in, I want to highlight that in the resources section, I have a one-page handout that will cover everything that I'm talking about. And I want that so that you have a resource, both as you're learning and wrestling with delegation, but also so that as you practice it, you have a simple, easy reference in how to most effectively delegate. So now let's jump in and we'll start with the why. And we're going to start with that because once you get the why down, once you understand why delegation is so important, that will help flow into all the pieces that follow. So let's talk about the why. The most important reason of why you delegate is to be a blessing to somebody else, to have them know the joy of being used by God. If I had to guess, I would say that the two main reasons people don't delegate, leaders don't delegate as much as they should, is the first is we feel guilty. We feel like, well, this is something that's a responsibility that I have, and here I am passing it off to somebody else. But when you see that there's the opportunity for somebody else to feel blessed, to know the joy of being used by God, one way that I think of it often is shared ministry. You're helping share ministry with other people. When you get that mentality, then you love delegating. You love involving other people in ministry. To take that a step deeper, my particular tribe of Christians, Protestants, and especially Lutherans, look to guidance to Martin Luther. And Luther's description of the priesthood of all believers, that each and every one of us is a priest. Each and every one of us can be used by God. So we are empowering the priesthood of all believers when we delegate to other folks. So a couple other reasons. Perhaps you know the acronym for TEAM. Together, everyone accomplishes more. So when we delegate, we get more ministry, we get more accomplished. Another reason why is it lets us focus on the next thing. Good leaders are always looking toward the next project, the next process, the next way we can improve ourselves and our organizations. And the simple fact is, if we get bogged down with all of our beginning tasks, if you will, or projects, then we will never have the capacity to move to that next thing. So it helps free us for the next thing. Another reason why is it avoids burnout, or it avoids wearing yourself out. And I use that phrase very particularly because that's a phrase in a scripture passage that really applies to delegation. It's found in the book of Exodus, where Jethro comes up to Moses. Moses is doing too much. He's doing all the discerning and all the judging for the people. And Jethro says, what you are doing is not good. You will wear yourself out and the people as well. So one reason to delegate is to avoid exactly what Moses was doing and what his father-in-law Jethro taught him. And lastly, it helps you focus on what only you can uniquely do and are gifted to do. If you're trying to do everything, then you're not doing what you are most particularly supposed to do. So again, it frees us up for that focus on what our gifts and our calling are uniquely about. So that's some reasons why. And when you get them again, that'll help move on to the next steps. So the next one is who. And this is a little bit easier, but you want to set yourself up for success. You want to make sure that you delegate to the proper people. So one piece of who is pick someone who has the right gifts, or at least that you discern has the potential for the right gifts. You don't want to put somebody in an area that really is not a gifted area for them at all. And I personally have experienced many times the joy of seeing some potential in someone, in delegating and working with them, and then seeing such a joy in them as they live into their ministry and sometimes discover gifts and talents that they didn't even know they had themselves. So try and see someone who has the right gifts, and then also you want somebody who follows through. We all know there are folks, good people, that for one reason or another, they just don't follow through on things. And especially if you're just beginning learning delegation, choose some folks that really are follow-through people. And then lastly, you want someone who has already expressed, or at least you sense in them, a desire to contribute to the mission of the church. Somebody who really wants to help move the ball down the field for your congregation, for your organization. They'll have an inner drive already, and in fact, that will build them and increase them. It'll strengthen their sense of community and their sense of being part of your organization or your congregation because they have a task or a project that they're working on. Well, that helps us with the why and the who. Again, the next piece, I'll record that and it'll be available next week, is the what and the how. Now, I always make sure that there are some helpful articles and some resources in the Going Deeper section. And in particular, I'm going to offer a number of them from Michael Hyatt, who is just a great teacher. And if you want to go deeper on any of these topics, please check out his podcast or his blog post, which are just excellent on the topic of delegation. And of course, make sure that you share this with somebody else who you see delegation.